Okay, I have now done so.
Welcome, everyone. Get settled in, and we will get started very shortly. It's a pleasure to see all of your faces on the screen. Some of you may not be on video, and that's totally fine too. But thank you for joining us from wherever in the world you are.
Hi, Michelle. Haven't seen you in a while. Michelle Roos. I was thinking about you the other day, like, oh, how's her book coming? Michelle has taken one round of book completion group with us.
Oh, wow. Wonderful. And I see Jane there, who is a volunteer with Service Space, and Karma too. And thank you for being here, Jane. And for everyone else. Wonderful. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. People will flow in as they join. And we are recording this, and a recording link will be sent out to everyone. So rest assured you won't miss anything if you need to take a bio break or get a nibble. Welcome, everyone. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Pavi Mehta, and I have the privilege and honor and joy of serving with Daily Good as a co-editor. And it has been so lovely to partner with Andy Couturier over the last, gosh, I feel like it's been maybe a year since we first connected.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and he had the opportunity to offer last year we did a two-part series where we did an interview with him, and then he held a workshop similar to this one, and it was so much fun that we couldn't resist kind of offering another version of it. And I find Andy to be many things, but just I feel like I've increasingly been touched by not just his writing. I first met him through his book, The Abundance of Less, and it's exquisite. As I recently told him, it took my breath away, not just the stories he portrayed, but the way he wrote about the people he features in it. It's exquisite, but also touched by the generosity and sincerity with which he believes that anyone who wishes to write, anyone who wants to write should be able to do so without feeling any inner or external kind of judgment of like, you're not a good writer, you're not you don't have anything to say, or just those little impish voices that some of us may have internalized in childhood even. And so there is something about that generosity of his intention, and also his skillfulness with it, and the playfulness and the creativity and the number of entries into the depths of one's, whether you call it the subconscious or inner being, or like how to bring that out onto the page. I feel like Andy has dedicated a good chunk of his life journey, his earth walk here, to making that journey inviting, accessible, available to everyone he can possibly do that for. So thank you, Andy, for
Thank you,
all
Bobby.
of that and more.
I'm blushing. Thank you
Over
so
to
much.
you.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. What an honor. How are you feeling? Are you relaxed? About relaxing. Just what an honor. Just nice to see everyone, and just gratitude to Pavi for her kindness and a daily good every single day, providing something well chosen for us. And Pavi has done so much interesting work. I'm now reading Pavi's book called Infinite Vision about Aravind. Eye Hospital, which her great uncle founded, and I will share, with your permission, Pavi, I know you won't be here the whole time, but a little talk that she gave. I think it's like a TED talk of about 20 minutes talking about it. Very inspiring. I didn't know I was particularly interested in eye surgery, but it is the way that she and her family, many members of her family, bring the ethics of care and compassion and inclusivity, especially inclusivity in a world rifted by class prejudice and class differences, to bring care to the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who are suffering. So I highly recommend that. I'll share that with you guys later, but I just wanted to thank Pavi because I know she's not going to be here the whole time. Okay. So I'm going to actually leave it so everyone can see everybody. Just kind of look around and be like, oh, there's some good people. Look at each other. Oh, those faces, and they're showing up to connect with themselves and perhaps connect with you, and at the same time maybe can remember what it's like to be an amoeba of a person that we are, full of all of these blips and osmoses and vulnerabilities, and try and worry, is it going to be good enough, or what do they think, and all of that stuff. It's burbling around. You look and you're seeing all these little postage stamp size faces of other people. Remember that they also are going through that. And if you can, and I absolutely not only believe, I've seen it prove it, that even though this is Zoom and you may be looking at a screen, there are actually people there and you are in a field with them. And even more so if you do look around at the others, and hope that they have a really great time this evening writing, or morning, or whatever time it is for you. Do you want to say anything else, Pavi? I know you need to go. Okay.
That's it. Enjoy the ride, everyone. And I will be back. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All right, I'm going to make myself a little larger, but spotlight myself for everyone. Hi. Good to see each of you. So the first thing I want to say is, are you comfortable? Are you physically comfortable? So maybe take a moment to adjust the pillow, stretch, make yourself feel at ease in your body as much as you can, and the things that you can't control, loosen into that as well. Also ask if you have do mute yourself if you would, just so that in case there's a background sound, a lovely puppy barking or something like that, that'll just make things easier for people. And this is technology. I'm connected to an electrical source. I am connected to the internet. As we know, these are, it is in, what is one person in my book said, it is in the nature of machines to break. So they may break. So if that happens, let's relax into it. And, if you believe, I'm going to say something weird here, prayer in school, hope it doesn't. It's not really school either. And then whatever kind of word that makes you feel good. If it's not prayer, fine. Okay, so I want to say it is a huge honor to be able to do a gifted class at all, and especially in collaboration with Pavi Mehta and Service Space and the Daily Good. So if you're coming here through this, thank you for spreading whatever good it is you do. Let's see. It's, as I said, a big honor to me. Gifting, a gifted class, a gifted anything is really, it's just so exciting. It's so good. So if sometime today or tomorrow you feel like gifting someone, buying a houseless person a meal, or just doing an act of generosity, even anonymously, maybe especially anonymously, it'll make a great world for the rest of us here, and you'll feel great. Okay, so today's plan, I'll give you a little thumbnail of it, and then we're going to have a moment of just settling in silence. But first, before I do that, first I'm going to go over, what is asymmetrical writing? What do I mean by asymmetrical writing? I've been playing and practicing this for 25 years, and it just keeps being expansive, and there's so much more inside of it. So I hope to introduce you to a little taste of that today, give you a chance to experience it yourself if you want to, by doing a little writing. So if you want to have a pen and paper nearby for doing writing, you won't be required to share it. It'll be an opportunity if you want to, but no requirement, so you can do it completely confidential and just a chance to write. I know every time someone's, oh, am I going to write? All those fears come up. So one of the reasons people get shut down is because of those fears. So I'll give you some tools around that. Anyway, a chance to experience asymmetrical writing, and then there'll be some question and answer and discussion. And you can ask me anything at the end. And then once the whole event is over, anyone who wants to stick around, I'll have kind of office hours to talk to you. Any questions you have about writing, I'd like to help you solve. Stick around for half an hour afterwards for anyone who wants to do that. And I guess at the end, I'll tell you a little bit about, in case you want to do weekly or regular your retreats or classes with me. But that'll be at the end. And if you're not interested in that, you can go. And in fact, I want to say you can leave at any time and come at any time, and you can actually be who you are. So you don't even have to sit up. You can be lying down in bed. You can have your legs up the wall. You could be wearing a clown mask. You can eat a carrot. Whatever you want to do. Anything actually. Just be who you are. There's just too many social situations. I think we transplant that to Zoom. It's a meeting. Everyone has to sit up straight. You have good posture. Your necktie tight. Don't do that. Just be who you are. Come in, come out. No need to ask permission or apologize. Just glad to see each of you. Okay, so one of my students has written a book called Golden, The Power of Silence in a World Full of Noise. So in a world in which many of us, not everyone at all, but has a tremendous fire hose of possibilities and options and information and just stuff coming at us. The one substance that we have very little of, we are deficient in, is nothing, nothingness, emptiness, quiet, silence, and it's very powerful. So just as an experience with this, let's take 60 seconds. I'm not going to do a meditation per se. If you meditate or you wish to use the silence in that way, or if you want to just space out and look at the ceiling, if you want to close your eyes, whatever you'd like to do. We'll just take 60 seconds of settling in. I like to kind of keep my feet on the ground and just scan my body, kind of see if there's any tension or anything. And I think that'll help you get more out of the workshop and just be more present. So do it whatever way you want to do it. And yeah, let's go ahead and settle in for 60 seconds. I'll keep time and we can begin. Okay, I let it go for a little bit more than 60 seconds. Hello, everybody. Again, if you would take in the other people who've shown up and send them some sweetness, if you would, and hope that they have a great time. All right, so I think I'm going to start with this idea. Remember the mystery. Remember the mystery. I had a dream about 5 to 6 nights ago, and in the dream there was a Moroccan teenager, kind of 13 years old, and he had a mop of black hair, and he wanted to steal my flipper, scuba diving flippers, which I don't even have. But in the dream, he was like, he didn't want to steal it, he wanted to borrow it or have it. Can I have it, please? And it was very strange. I was on top of a pile of books and I couldn't come down. Always intimate to share a dream. Anyway, that was a dream. And next day, my friend was telling me, sharing a piece of writing that he did from when he was a teenager. He's actually in his 70s. When he was a teenager, he's a French Quebecois person, and he was a teenager. And this was just, he didn't know about my dream. He said there was a Moroccan teacher who didn't like these teenagers in the back leaning back against their chair and not paying attention. So there was like the teenager and the Moroccan, but it was switched around and it was the next day. So I tell you that story to say this happens again and again in writing classes, that somebody's writing about something and that's actually a story from someone else's life, or there's like some details. And just remember that that might happen. It's not guaranteed to happen. Just remember the mystery of that. I am not now in Morocco. I don't think I've ever been to Morocco. So we could try to search for a logical reason or explanation, but it's kind of sad to the image itself of the teenage Moroccan. Oh, such a lovely boy. Okay. Okay. So one of the things I like to ask everyone to do is to set an intention in your interactions today to be kind to every person in the room. Now, of course, you won't be interacting with everyone. You'll have actually an opportunity to chat with a couple other people later on, but I'd like you to send generosity, kindness, and sweetness to a couple of people you see on the screen. And while you're at it, everyone in the room includes you. So no need to be like, well, everyone except me, or, you know, well, I'm the bad writer. I'm sure there's some very important and real writers here, or some very published writers, or there's some people who are feeling better than me, or who are smarter than me, or taller or shorter, or whatever it is. Send that sweetness to yourself. All right. Okay, so if you have a pen handy, why don't you take out either a scrap piece of paper or your journal or whatever you like to write with, if you want to do this experience with us, and jot down a couple of topics, if you like to call them, ideas, situations. So this can be anything from something coming up in your life, something you've been noticing, something that's been rankling you or intriguing you. Maybe a chapter of a book you're writing, if you're writing a book, or just a short story, or any title. So just, and not just one necessarily, why don't you just take, I don't know, just give everyone like 20 or 30 seconds to jot down a few words and phrases. It doesn't have to be a phrase, but if it is a phrase, it's fine. That might be topic-y for yourself tonight, so that you have some to choose from. Okay, so what I'd like to do is share some things with you first, so you can put that piece of paper away for a second, and you'll be able to come back and see if there's anything there that you would like to write about when we get to the writing experience part of this. Okay, so I would like to share with you some, the way I always start my writing groups, with some permissions. And maybe, I don't like to, even the word guideline feels a bit authoritarian to me, a little above and below, but just some invitations and some permissions for you. I call it peeling away the onion. Peeling away the onion, in that we've been all laminated over with a bunch of expectations about, well, certainly writing, but just the way to share, or how I'm going to be, you know, since when we were little kids, right? You remember being a kid, like, I'm just going to try this, and someone will say, I shouldn't do that. Maybe some of those are good reasons, but a lot of those are just sort of social control mechanisms, or embedded in patriarchy. what men can do and women can do, what boys should do, what girls should do, and they're also embedded in just hierarchy in general. So I would like to share with you what I call peeling away the onion. And by the way, all the resources that I bring today, I'm going to share with you both in the chat window, so you can save them, but also in an email to everyone who has registered for this course, so you'll get all of them. But for the moment, I'm going to share on the screen with you a few of these while I talk about that. And I call them nourishing guidelines for free writing. Okay, here we go. And so I see your face, Susan, there. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see that, just so I know? Yes, Susan, great, thank you. All right, make yourself comfortable physically. We already talked about that. Do you have a nice cup of tea or something to drink? A long few deep breaths. Yeah, to release the ego's hold a bit and reset your mind, think of one person who has helped you be here today. So that might be the man or woman who put the internet into your house or apartment. It may be the bus driver who took you around Bellingham, Washington today. It may be the farm worker who allowed you to have some food today. Just think of one person. And what a lovely time to turn off your other distractions. You're just gonna, if you need it, if you need to be on alert for some sick relative, I'm sorry, it's okay. Go ahead and leave it on. But if you can, I am sorry that that's your situation, but that's what I meant to say. But if you can sink in, that's great. Always seek is my favorite one. I always say that about half of them. Always seek your own pleasure and enjoyment in writing. You can use your favorite pen, your favorite kind of paper or journal. Some people say, well, what if I'm writing about something painful? Even so, see if you can enjoy the touch of the pen on the paper, or just the sip of tea as you're writing, or maybe the choice of words as you're trying to describe what's going on. I have a lot of reasons for pleasure and enjoyment in writing, but I think I'm going to make it short today. I can say that I think neurobiologically as well, that will help you enjoy the, not only enjoy the writing process, but actually write better. Okay, this is your time. It's an unhurried time. You've cleared away the other things in your life to be here. Let's relish and cherish it. You can write about anything you want. Let me say that again. You can write about anything you want. Be tedious or dirty or mundane or meandering or bloody or childish. People are hesitant about mundane. One person in my class, an 8-week class, she wrote a letter to her bank trying to get her house from being repossessed. And it was creative writing. So I say all writing is creative writing. And she still is living in that house today. So anything is okay. There's a corollary to that. We have full confidentiality with others in the room. I'm going to stop the share for just a second and remove my spotlight. And would you just, I know some of you are not on screen, on camera, and that's fine. Would you raise your hand if you're just fine with full confidentiality? Just kind of say, yeah, that's cool with me. Great, thank you all on that. I was just told my internet connection is a bit unstable. So if I gap out a little bit, just imagine what you think I might be saying. Make it up. Okay, let's go back to that. And there we go, peeling away the onion. Okay, another corollary, you never have to read if you don't want to, so you can get dangerous. So for example, you're writing along and then there's the part about stealing money from your mom or the genital awards. You're like, oh my God, I can't write about that. I use that example because it's kind of a nice extreme one. Yes, you can write about anything you want to write about here. This is called, my writing school is called The Opening. So whatever you want to write about, you may write about. And it allows you to get dangerous. The only rule that is unbreakable is kindness to others. So just that is my request, that when you speak to others, encourage them to, whatever comes out of your mouth as much as possible, something that will help them go back to writing later excited to do more writing, not hesitant about it. Jettison any thinking about who is a writer or even what good writing is. Really, Andy? Jettison thinking about good writing? Actually, paradoxically, I better be good. I better be good. I hope this is good writing. I know I'm not good. I've read really good writing. This is not good writing. Tends to make you risk averse. And if you're risk averse, you tend to be timid sometimes. People do. And that will cause you to have less energy. So actually, it's not even that good for the writing to be like, okay, is this good writing? Is this good writing? So see if you can let that go. So this is different than an open mic. I would say this is probably actually my favorite thing in this list to say. So when you read to another person, it's not supposed to be your best work. We welcome the incomplete, the half-finished, the obscure, and the emergent. We welcome the incomplete, the half-finished, the obscure, the emergent. That's what this space is here for. Accept a radical come as you are attitude for yourself. Okay, doing this exercise with us today is not about complete sentences. It's not about correctness, and it is impossible to do the exercise wrong. So I even call it an experiment because exercise is kind of a little formal. So whatever way you do it is perfect. It's already done, right? Okay, and if you don't want to do the exercises I offer to you, you don't have to forget about it. The 3 rules of free writing, which I'll bring back in later, are keep the pen moving, don't read back, and don't scratch out. Keep the pen moving, don't read back, don't scratch out. And if someone chooses to read to you, we'll have a chance for that later. Again, completely optional. And don't be thinking about it out if you can while you're writing. Okay, man, I might read this. Should I read this? I don't know. That just kind of clutters up the mind a little bit. So you can let go of that. That's great. But if someone does read to you, remember how difficult it is to reach in yourself and pull something up out of there and find words for it and take the risk of sharing it with another person. So the main thing when someone reads to you is thank you. I already covered that. Non-evaluation of others' goal to send other people back to their lives, eager to write more. All right, that's enough. I think you can read that. No need for disclaimers and negative preambles about the piece. And try to, if you can, remain open and watching and delighted. Okay, so those are some of our principles. Again, I will share that with you later in the chat and also as an email. So you will have that, but thanks for listening there. Okay, what is asymmetrical writing? What do I mean by asymmetrical writing? Okay, so some of you may have read this article that the Daily Good was kind enough to share, which is called Asymmetry Writing in the Mind. And you know what? I think I will share the genesis of this. I didn't actually realize it at the time, but when I was a kid, there was something that really bugged me, and I didn't even know why it bugged me. I grew up in Washington, D.C. My father worked in the nonprofit sector, and so I saw a lot of those big government buildings. I am going to share one with you now, and a lot of them are they're authoritarian, they're kind of cold and gray, and they didn't leave me any room to be myself. So I'm going to share an image or two of some of those buildings. You guys have seen these buildings? Yeah, just there's no space. Everything is blocky. This is symmetry. Now, of course, we have the Parthenon and all kinds of beautiful symmetry. Isn't necessarily bad, but a lot of these kinds of things, they leave no space for you, for the soft animal of your body, for exploration, for interaction. So what I like to do is share, and I'll talk for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll get started with the writing exercise. And again, I really love talking about this with people. So if you have the time to stick around at the end to ask questions, to share your own thoughts, I am really delighted to listen to you and hear what you have to say about this. But I'm going to, at the bottom of the article, Daily Good allows comments, and somebody shared Whoops, hold on. Everyone in meeting, this following quote with me, or with, and I've abridged it a bit. The openings in asymmetry, the wholeness it offers, and the partnership it offers, and the way it offers someone to be themselves without the ability to join, we are left out. That was by a person who said her name was Frida, Freda. I cut out some other stuff, but I just thought that was really nice. So I'm also really open to listening to other folks about how they experience this idea. So a little bit more history for me. When I started, I've been teaching writing now 27 years. I got my master's degree in the teaching of writing, which was an incredible experience in the late 90s. But within that format, we learned all kinds of Roman numeral in the composition program, right, for university students writing term papers, the Roman numerals, right, and subsets. And that was one way to organize. And the other way to organize potentially was called stream of consciousness. And that was sort of extremely trippy, right? And it was, which it is. And I think it's very interesting. And it has to do with the surrealists, and Freud and the unconscious, and maybe some psychedelics. One thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing. And I believe there's an innate structure to the brain, so it's probably impossible to write without a structure. But I was also searching for something, some way to write that was, had a sense of structure or order that was perceptible to the reader, or that I could use as the writer, but that it wasn't too rigid and allowed some flexibility. So I asked my writing teacher about it, Leslie Kirk Campbell, and she was a great teacher, but she said, well, you'll just kind of look at it and you'll figure it out, and you'll kind of put it together. And a lot of my writing students get really stuck around, like, how do I organize my book? So it was a big question for me. As part of my life journey, my partner Cynthia and I, we went to Japan, rural Japan, and lived there for several years teaching English. Cynthia loves flowers and loves flower arranging, and had worked in a florist's in California, and mass production sort of bouquets for supermarkets. And the way you build a Western floral design is no empty space, right? Everything right side, left side the same. Look at it from the top, it's symmetrical. And there's a beauty in that. I don't want to say that's no beauty, but she got involved in Japanese flower arranging. Ikebana is how it's pronounced, with my American accent, Ikebana. And there was a show, and I went to it at the local cultural center, and I saw these creations, these botanical creations, and I'm going to share some photographs of that with you here, that just moved me to my soul. And let's see, let me move these DC buildings out of the way here and share that with you, and see if I can share the screen. Something beautiful. Not symmetrical, but it has a feeling of order and structure, and we could analyze it, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's sort of 3 camellia blossoms, one's just blooming, one's in full bloom, one's decaying. We allow decay into our flower arrangements, yes. There's 2, I guess those are carnations, I'm not sure, not very good at flower identification. Then there's the look of the pot, and even the photographer and the shadows. There seems to be, to me, I was so moved by this, an invitation to the fertile process of creation, because of the empty space, because of the openness. And many of the practitioners who were displayed at the community culture hall, it was a big event, like once a year, November, everyone gets together and does their thing, had been practicing Ikebana for 50 years, almost entirely women, and they were masters, and they created these botanical sculptures that had so much dynamism, and a way for me to participate in the fertile act of creating meaning. So as opposed to those DC buildings that just sort of come at you, I mean, maybe you can throw an egg at them, right? So that's an oppositional, symmetrical thing. But these botanical creations gave me an opportunity to participate. And I got very excited because I thought maybe this could be a metaphor for structuring writing, right? A big orange flower here, a branch going off there, something heading out on the edge there, an unbloomed blossom there, a couple of buds of a berry about to happen. And as I looked at more and more of them, I'm still in love with this art form, the more I got excited as, well, how could we potentially do this in writing? So I came across this essay by a man named Okakura Kakuzo. And he has a book called The Book of Tea, which is an incredibly interesting book. He wrote it in 1909. He was a museum curator and he was living in Boston. He wrote it in English, you know, I used to say this, and maybe you should stop saying this, far more beautiful than I ever can write. But that's comparison, isn't it? That's a very beautiful English that I admire. And I'm going to read you a couple of quotes from that. He's talking about the tea room, but I think many kinds of asymmetrical art, including the tea room, including Chinese ink painting, including rock gardens. The tea room is, I'm reading from Okakura Kakuzo, the tea room is an abode of the unsymmetrical, inasmuch as it is consecrated to the worship of the imperfect, purposely leaving something unfinished for the play of the imagination to complete, purposely leaving something unfinished for the play of the imagination to complete. And the second quote that I put in that article in Daily Good is, the dynamic nature of Zen and Taoist philosophy laid more stress upon the process through which perfection was sought than upon perfection itself. True beauty could be discovered only by one who mentally completed the incomplete. So that was such an invitation to me. True beauty could be discovered only by one who mentally completed the incomplete. So if you would like to write something today that would give the possibility to other people to mentally complete the thing that you have purposely left unfinished, and remember, in our world of, say, composition writing, we are always told to make transitions, right? And clearly map out what we're doing. But if you look at this painting, this is 16th century Sumier, which is ink painting by a person named Seshu. You can see how much blank space there is there, and just the play of dark and light. There's that island there on the right, but it's sort of darker ink, and then there's a sort of sea of white, and then a tiny little boat in there. I think without that boat, it would be different. Catalyzing it. Here's a Kyoto rock garden, right? There is something about the placement of these stones in relationship. The writing we're going to do today will give you an opportunity to write like this, with chunks of writing here and chunks of writing there, and a lot of empty space in between it. I'm going to share a piece of asymmetrical writing art that my partner and I created. This is the house that we built in Trinity County, Northern California, not where I am right now, by the way, which has, if you notice those three windows at the left, those are actually a pattern from Ikebana, Shin, Hikae, and Soe, which are three different kind of one particular structure given to us over time. So it's not something someone just made up. It's some of them are 200, 300, 400 years old structures of visual art, those left three windows. And then we played with the other four windows and move them around. And the idea is to keep the eye moving and to keep it dynamic. And, you know, it doesn't get boring. We built this maybe 25 years ago, 28 years ago. And every time I look at it, I still find it interesting to look at. Here's the cover. This is not my art, by the way. This is the cover of my book, The Abundance of Less, with the ginkgo leaves, the blue ginkgo leaves. The original artist, it was sort of a piece of stock art that the publisher wanted to use. There was actually three more ginkgo leaves in the original art. And well, Cynthia and I thought maybe we could just remove, that's kind of weird to do someone else's art. We got permission. 3 of those ginkgo leaves to leave more white space. And I think it became more inviting, and maybe the abundance of less is felt in that. And just to not be too Asian centric here, this is Venice, right? We have some symmetrical buildings on the left and right. In fact, we have St. Mark's Square. We have symmetrical buildings. But that tower right in the middle kind of sets it off, right? It kind of changes things. There's a dynamism. It moves around in your mind. Now, perhaps because Asia, Venice had so much connection with the East, that was why that happened. But again, it doesn't have to be Asian art. And again, anyway, I just want to say it's a lot of fun. It's a little bit more explanation than I usually give. Usually I just throw everybody else, let's do some writing, and we try this out. But I thought I'd give you, since I emphasized this as asymmetrical writing, a little bit of my thinking behind it. Okay, so what would that be? I'm going to give you 3 examples of writing exercises that you can easily do on your own at another time. And then we'll do one together. Okay, so my first book is called Writing Open the Mind, and it has dozens and dozens of 45, most of them are asymmetrical writing exercises, not all of them. And the idea is leaving that blank space, grouping chunks together, chunks of writing that are not necessarily similar to each other so that it flows nicely, and they're not necessarily opposite, the pros and cons, the right and the left, good and the bad, the dualism, right? That's a kind of symmetry in some sense, right? So the form, again, I'm just going to explain this a little bit, and it's all in my book, and a lot of the exercises are either on my YouTube channel, or I'm going to also send you a PDF which has some exercises in it, including the exercise we're going to do today. So if you don't get the whole idea of how it's done, you can just make it up when you do this if you want to try it. But I'd like you to imagine, this is not what we're going to do today. Again, I'm just giving you a little example. Imagine you have 5 fragrances next to you on the table, right? You have some eucalyptus, you have some lavender, you have some burnt toast, I used to use this. Very difficult to find an ashtray anymore, but ashtrays are kind of good. You have one kind of smell that isn't pretty, and vinegar, and I don't know, something else. You have 5 fragrances, and as you do a free write, and again, a free write is keep the pen moving, don't read back, don't scratch out. Say you say 25 minutes. I'm going to write for 25 minutes on my topic. You pick up that lavender and you smell it with your non-dominant hand, and then you write not about the lavender, but about your topic, but you let the lavender influence your mind. 5 minutes, let's set the timer. Next 5 minutes, pick up the eucalyptus. Continue to write on your topic. You might skip a line just to see the chunks, and you're smelling the eucalyptus leaves, right? And then you're smelling the ashtray for 5 minutes. I promise you that the words you use, the ideas that will come to you about your topic, not about the eucalyptus or the ashtray, will be different. And the sentence patterns will be different. It can be analyzed with discourse analysis, another thing I learned in my program. You can actually see how, and it shouldn't be a surprise, right? Fragrances change our brains, and we write with our brains. So you have 5 chunks of writing, that's the end, and then you read it to someone. Maybe you don't even tell them about the spells. And the chunks of writing, at least this is the idea, are dissimilar parts juxtaposed close together without any transition, which I propose to you creates a sense of space in between them. And in that space, your reader, or you as the writer, start to create connections, and therefore it's more creative. It's a lot of fun. It's an easy structure to follow, and you invite them into the fertile process of creation. So you're not grabbing the steering wheel with white knuckles and telling them exactly what to think. You're letting go of some control. They may think something else that you didn't intend. Wait a minute, writing is supposed to be a transmission of my brain to your brain. Exactly. Sorry, writing doesn't work that way. So let's embrace it. Okay, so that's one exercise. 5 fragrances, 5 minutes each, 25 minutes. Again, you're not necessarily writing about the smell, you're writing about your topic or your story or whatever, but different things will happen in each of those chunks of writing. 2 more examples, exactly the same format, 5 chunks of writing. And again, these times are arbitrary. If you don't have 25 minutes or you want to make it longer or shorter, that's fine. But just to make it simple here, 5 different genres of writing. So again, you're writing about your topic, but you write it, the first one is a to-do list, right? Let me get a off-the-wall topic. I'm going to just go with the first thing here because I believe in improv. This is a mask. I don't know if you guys have ever seen one of these things. People put them over their face to prevent the spread of disease. People may have some feelings about these. So maybe you're writing about masks. I just picked it up because it was right here on the table. I could write as a to-do list, my essay on masks as a to-do list, right? The next genre could be a fairy tale. The third genre could be a letter of complaint or a letter of apology. Next one could be a surrealist play. And the next one could be a prayer. So again, I'm writing about the topic as a prayer. And a lot of cool stuff comes up. And again, that's juxtaposed 5 different chunks of writing. It can work with 3, it can work with 7. You can even do this if you're into movement. Maybe you're a dance person or an improv person. Maybe you're not a dance or improv person. You don't feel that comfortable in your body. You sit down to write. This is actually what you can write from your body. What if you were to move around the room like a crazy 5-year-old with a pogo stick, or play tag? We do this in some of our retreats. We run around, we're running all crazy. Y'all, that's kind of like the energy up in our body. And then immediately go to writing. 5 minutes. As that energy is in me, not necessarily about running around, but with the topic in mind. Bring something up out of my brain. 5 minutes is over. Now we do some Tai Chi or some Qigong, some slow, gentle movement. And until that feeling suffuses the body, then again, quickly sit down and do some writing, 5 minutes. And then the last one I like to do is, especially if we have a group, you walk around the room with your eyes blindfolded or your eyes closed. Maybe someone's guiding you, and you just sort of feel different things, and you feel a lot of things walking around with your eyes closed, especially if you're not somebody who's blind at birth or blind. Just a lot of feelings I have, at least, about, I don't know what they feel like. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Fear of running into things, hurting myself, right? Turning off my eyes sensitizes my fingers. So again, it changes my mind state, right? And again, these 3 different kinds, right? The pogo stick, crazy, run around, play tag kid, the qigong, and the walking around the room blind. 3 pieces of writing, 5 minutes each. I have an asymmetrical piece of writing. So that's an example of some, and again, I teach those in my classes, and I give away a lot of resources on how to do that. And if you're curious, I'm happy to tell you more about it, or if you have any questions about it. But I would actually like to get to today's writing exercise. So before I do that, if there's anything urgent or something that's deeply confusing that anyone has, just go ahead and type it into the chat window, because I just want to make sure that I'm not losing anyone who has a urgent question. And again, there'll be lots of time for questions later, but that's asymmetrical writing introduction, and we're going to now transition into doing it. And this is the first exercise in Writing Open the Mind. It's called cobblings. Like, I'm going to cobble something together. And it is based on flower arranging. It is a 3-part process. And I got excited with all those different kinds of writing I was sharing with you. Let's take a 5-second moment for Andy to chill out and take a breath. You can join me if you want to. Okay, good. Okay, so this is called cobblings, and it has 3 steps involved, and I'll lead you through them. I'm going to repeat every major part of the instruction 2 or 3 times. So if you've already gotten it, fine, but I know for myself as a student, there is a tendency to gap out. Anyone ever had gapping out? So I do repeat this a couple of times, and that will, I think, help you feel relaxed into the experience of doing this. Okay, so remember at the beginning I suggested that you might write down some potential topics that you would like to write about. So go ahead and look at the list, and not the one that you said you were supposed to be writing about or you've been meaning to get to, but the one you're interested in right now, or the one you're excited by right now, or the one that seems curious to you right now, or the one you're supposed to get to if you want to. So go ahead and put an asterisk or star next to that one, and that's going to be your topic for today. So as I said, this is a three-part exercise. Again, I like to use the word experiment because exercise is kind of closed-ended. Okay, there seems to be some noise outside my window. I hope you guys don't hear it, but if you do, we'll have to live with it. So I actually opening up a brand new journal. I've been keeping these same journals for years for this exercise. So as I said, this is called cobblings, and we're going to start by, on the page, making 5 columns. So 4 lines straight down the page, and you're going to have a title for those. So let's go ahead and make the last one maybe a little wider, the last column a little wider, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So sort of like this, 5 columns. And at the top of those columns, you are invited to put a title for the columns, or a category heading, maybe we can call it that, although it sounds a little formal to call it that, and I will read them to you as well as put them in the chat for you, which are faces at the top of the left one. Second one is scenes. I'll explain this, but let's write these down. Faces, scenes. The third one is ideas. The fourth one is feelings. And the last one is questions. Faces, scenes, ideas, feelings, and questions. Just sort of like this. Don't you love how beautiful my handwriting is? I was in India and someone said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I teach writing." And then they saw my handwriting and said, "You teach writing?" I don't teach handwriting, although it's kind of beautiful in its own way. Faces, scenes, ideas, feelings, and questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to take about 5 minutes to brainstorm lists, 5 different lists of any faces associated with your topic. So that's people or dogs or polar bears, any face at all. The face of the moon, maybe. I've never thought of that. Faces, scenes, ideas, feelings, and questions. So scenes can be, seen in the sense of a, Victorian drama, right? Parlor. Or it could be a scene of confrontation, or it could be a windswept plateau high in the Sierra. Any kind of scene at all, and I'll give you time to do this, but let me go through this. Ideas could be, another word for ideas that you may prefer is concepts, but you may not. This is to allow the intellect into the room. So, in some sense, that academic thing is terrible, right? Or that conceptual thing is stuffy, but we can invite that, colonialism, right? It's a concept. Extraction of surplus labor value, a Marxist concept. Worker ownership of the means of production concept. Historical trauma passed down on the DNA. So concepts, any concepts. And by the way, if you're writing along, making these lists, and you think, is that really associated with my topic or not? We're going to say yes to it. Whatever comes up, just say yes. So if the word aardvark comes up and you're like, well, is that a face or a scene, or I'm not sure, you're actually blocking yourself, potentially saying, no, that's not, is it? For you, if you want to take this, just write aardvark down there in concept of aardvark, or, perspicacity, any word that comes to you. You want to say yes to the pen, because it is the pen which dreams. It's a quote from one of my favorite philosophers. It is the pen which dreams, so let the pen dream. Faces, scenes, ideas, concepts, feelings, emotions, right? Can be just, of course, happy, sad, but it could be irritability or, grandiosity. That's a nice feeling. Or humiliation. Who knows? And then questions. This is a really cool permission for questions. You can even call this mysteries if you want to. You know how they said in school, write what you know, write what you know. All those authoritarian voices always have that male kind of write what you know. I'm going to encourage you to write what you don't know. Let it into the room. Why is it that human beings build buildings and then abandon them and don't let people sleep in them when there's people who need to sleep in them? That's a question I have. I don't have an answer to it. What can we do about male violence against women? That's a question I have. I may not have the answer for it, but it might be part of my topic. So any questions you have. So again, we have faces, scenes, ideas, feelings, and questions. And in just about 30 seconds, we're going to start. So let me just give you a couple of more permissions around this. Faces, scenes, ideas, feelings. You don't have to do all the faces and then all the scenes. So you can just pop around or bop around from one to the other. So you write down Bob Hope, and that reminds you of the feeling of despair, right? And despair reminds you of the avalanche in Big Sur. I'll never be able to see the elephant seals because the road is blocked, right? And then you think of the elephant seal. So just pop around, as I said. I have my topic, I think 5 to 7 minutes. So the idea of this is plenty. You're not going to use all of these words. In fact, you only use a few of them. But one of the first freedoms of writing is to have plenty, okay? So if it's a possibility, write it down, write quickly. Could I offer another, thank you for questions, by the way, I do love them. Another example of scenes. Let's see, there is a operation, one of my students co-founded a group called Food Not Bombs, and a scene that you will see in Santa Cruz and many other cities around the world is people serving vegan meals to the homeless. So Food Not Bombs table, they do it on a regular basis, and they make it and they offer it for free. Housed or unhoused, drunk or sober, you're welcome. So that's a scene. Food Not Bombs table might be all I need to write. I don't have to write all that out. I'm just telling you, right? Another example of a scene is a tiger in a Cambodian rescue center. It's not quite a zoo that I saw that was chained in because he'd been rescued from poachers. Grace Cathedral with hundreds of people singing a hymn that had just been written. There's another example of a scene. I hope that helps. So this is scenes, ideas, feelings, and questions. And as I said, I'll get 5 to 7 minutes until I feel like I've got a goodly number. Keep the pen moving. Don't overthink it. Don't look at the ceiling trying to find the right word. By the way, you don't have to write in English. You can just write anything at all that comes to your mind. You can even write in gibberish if the word comes because you want to give a yes message to the pen. All right. I am going to do this with you. I am going to mute myself, but if along the way you find yourself troubled, go ahead and put a question in the chat window. All right, so enjoy this process. Again, your theme, your topic, your idea, and any faces, scenes, ideas, feelings, or questions you have about that. And let us begin. Keep the pen moving, just keep writing, get as much down as you can, a couple more minutes. Okay, why don't you take maybe 30 more seconds? Okay, let's pause. Let me just remind you, now that you know how to do this, you'll be able to do this anytime. You can expand this list, you can do it with another topic. And I will tell you that since I somehow cooked this up from flower arranging, I think it was 96 or 97, I have done this probably several hundred times and always produces something interesting, at least interesting to me. So it's a fun process. So our first freedom is listing. You've already experienced that. A lot of times when we have stress or pain or difficulty around writing, it's because we have to get the right word or the best idea, the perfect thing right now. Right? So you have lots. So that's your first thing. Lots, plenty. Smorgasbord, big buffet. I can eat anything. I can have a little, I can have a lot, whatever. Part two we'll start to make a structure here. What I'd like to do is to invite you to look at your list, to float the clouds of your eyes over the page at all of them, kind of in a loose way, instead of starting in the upper left, but just kind of look around and look for one list item. I don't mean a whole list, but one item. Might be a phrase, or just a single word. It might be a face, it might be a feeling, doesn't matter. That would be an interesting way to you to start. I like to give people the offer permission to do something startling to begin with, but sometimes it might be fun or interesting to start with something kind of easy to get into, kind of like, the first hand touch of a massage when a new massage person puts their hand on you for the first time. So something soft and easy, but whatever one it is, go ahead and choose one that would be an interesting place to start. And when you find that, go ahead and put the number 1 next to it. I like to put the circle around it. So here's my list and here's my number 1 next to it. Just put a number 1 next to it. I put a circle around it so I can find it more easily. Here comes the asymmetrical juxtaposition part. Are you ready? Wait for it. You're going to choose, guess, number 2, some other item that you're going to juxtapose against it. Another chunk of writing. This list item will turn into one chunk of writing. And the invitation is, it doesn't have to logically flow from number 1. It could be a leap This is the asymmetry part. It doesn't have to be the opposite of it, right? If you have a feeling happy, you don't have to do the sad one next to it. Good, because and it can be from any list. So my first one happens to be today a scene, right? So if this scene causes me despair, which is one of my feelings, I could put number 2, but that's a little bit cause and effect, sort of a little linear. So if I'm feeling a little puckish or a little playful trickstery, I might just throw one in. I'm not even sure how they're connected, but I'm going to put them there together. Or maybe I have a vague idea that they have something to do with each other, right? The 3-year-old, the scene of the 3-year-old excited at the racetrack. Okay, so go ahead and do that diagonal leap. Choose number 2. Now you're going to choose number 3. If I go a little faster or a little slower than you do, then you can just adjust to your own speed. And again, this one, don't worry about now number 1. Don't even think about number 1. Just think about from number 2 to number 3. What would be an interesting leap? Perhaps the first one was kind of a close leap. Maybe the 2 to 3 is like a really radical, weird leap. Go ahead and put number 3. Again, any list item, not the list, but any list item. Okay, I'm going to ask you to keep going until you have 7 list items. So again, put a number next to it, circle the number, and just to give you a visual of it, it sort of looks like this for me. Right? I've got a 1 over here, and I've got a 2 over here, and a 3 over here. Okay, so let's take maybe just 120 seconds for you to finish that list. If you finish early, just go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in your mind by reading them. Okay. Does anyone need a minute more? Raise your hand. No, that's good. Okay, so that's part 2. Now you have a map. Now you have a structure. Now you have a map or structure for this asymmetrical piece of writing. Part 3 is we're going to actually draft it. What will that look like? So you have 7 pieces. I'm going to give about, looking at the time, so I want to kind of, my edge is to kind of be better about time. So give me just a second. Okay, so I think we have, let's go ahead and take maybe 21, 22, 23 minutes. I think, let's call it 23 minutes. So you have 7 items in 23 minutes. So how will this look? Any way you wanted to. You might think, okay, 7 into 23 is a little bit more than 3 minutes each, and set a timer and kind of make it all the same length. But that's not perfectly asymmetrical, right? It's pretty regular. So you could do it that way. Probably it's interesting to do it that way. But today, I'm going to let you regulate how much each piece of writing. So number 1 will be a chunk of writing. You'll take the scene, idea, question, write it down, and do some free writing. So again, free writes are, don't stop the pen, don't look around and think what's the right word, don't read back because that triggers the critical thinking mind, and don't scratch out because that really triggers the critical thinking mind, and the subconscious runs away from that, like, is it right, is it good, is it good, is it right, did I spell it right, I can't even make my handwriting out. Just let it be, just write a lot, as much as you can, just go, go, go. If you're writing on a computer, sometimes people use the trick of turning the brightness all the way down until it's dark if you touch type, and so you can't even read it. But the idea is to not trigger this critical thinking mind. So again, we'll have 23 minutes, And I will, along the way, be like 18 minutes left, 11 minutes left, whenever I think of it, let you know. And you can basically space those 7 chunks of writing out in any way that seems that you want to at the time. So maybe a particular thing you thought you were just going to write the question down. That'll be fine. A single sentence, right? Write the question down, leave it. But then you have some ideas or other questions that come. You write maybe 4 or 5 sentences or half a page. I don't like to necessarily use the word paragraph because that chunks it too much. Might be longer than a paragraph, might be a single sentence, might be a single word. Every chunk of writing can be its own size. I like to visually on the page kind of skip a line between each chunk. I will say that sometimes in the past when I've offered this to people, they will say to me, I only got through the first 2. That's fine if that's what you want to do, but to experience what this is like, I'm going to suggest you make it through all 7, at least 5, but see if you can make it through all 7. If you're feeling rushed, there's a way you can just relax and write whatever amount you want to, but there's actually a way to use like, okay, I gotta write, a kind of fun kid inside of you that's like speeding along, okay, write quickly. And that can also help you overcome the critical mind. Yes, great question. Thank you, John Robert. All 7 in order. So in the order that you've done them. So first one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, seventh one in those 23 minutes. And obviously there'll be quite small chunks. And if we were doing this in a one of my standard free writing classes, we might take 45 minutes for this, but I've done this a lot, so 23 minutes is plenty. So yeah, and if you want to, you can write the question or face at the top of each chunk, or if you don't want to. I like to sometimes just because I see 10 years later what structure it was, but whatever you want to. So this is your map. And oh, Fiona said, islands without transitions. I like the word islands. That is a cool word. Fiona, if I can have permission to use that word when I teach this in the future, please tell me. Yes, islands. So I know we have been trained to make transitional space. That's sort of like the Western flower arrangement with all the empty spaces filled in. So again, yeah. Oh, one other permission. Be open to synchronicity. Be open to invitations. If a big dog runs into your room wet with mud while you're writing about it, you can write wet with mud, or like, get those paws off me. Just to give you an example, as I was writing my list, one of the people in this workshop had as their picture, instead of their camera on, they had, what was it, sky above, earth below, peace within. I just kind of happened to see that. I thought that's a great idea. It actually sort of helps my writing. So that was one of my ideas: sky above, earth below, peace within. So be open to, if you're sitting in a cafe and someone's complaining about, real estate, write that down. Anything at all that comes in. So yeah, islands without transition. If you want to write a transition, you can. You can do this any way you want to do it. Any way you want to do it, you can do it. But this is the invitation. Okay, I do want to make sure that there's no questions right now. So let me just check this. Okay, all 7 in order. Okay, fabulous. All right, so if you have a question along the way, go ahead. I'm going to turn my microphone off. I will be monitoring the chat. So if you have a question, but again, if you want to concentrate, if you don't need to read the chat, don't, just kind of dive into, and remember that you chose this topic because you wanted to write about it. This is your time. You set aside this time to do the writing. Let's do it. Let's have some fun. Enjoy the process. Okay. All right. So 23 minutes, and let's begin now. Keep the pen moving. Keep the pen moving. 19 minutes left. Keep the pen moving. 13 minutes left, 13 minutes left. Keep the pen moving. Go, go, go. Try to get through all 7. Enjoy the process. Keep the pen moving. 9 more minutes to go. See if you can get through all of it. 9 more minutes. Keep going. Enjoy the process. A little bit less than 5 minutes left. Keep pen moving. A little bit less than 5 minutes. Keep the pen moving. Got a couple minutes left. Okay, find a nice place to stop. All right, take a breath. How about a deep inhale? Okay, I'm going to invite you to do this thing. If you have two hands, you can spread them apart like this. Bring some energy into your physical being and bring them together in a big clap. Tap them, tap them, and then rub them together. Get some heat going. Fast, 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 faster, faster, even more. And then stop and then hold it just over your face, not touching. And slowly move it up over the back of your head, all the way back to the back of your head. To clear the energy a little bit and kind of bring yourself out. Congratulations, you did it. Hallelujah. Excellent. Cool. Thank you for doing this with me. A lot of fun. Always to do this. And I guess I want to say, before I say anything else, like, it's just, I see all of your faces, those of you, and just the names of people who don't have their faces. And I'd love to know you. I don't know that I can know you, but I am interested in meeting Marie or Hedy or Lisa or Krishnan or Mary. It just would be wonderful. And for those of you I do know, Dorothy, nice to see you, and Elizabeth and Michelle and Sharon. I'm excited to be working with you again. So just a joy. What we are going to do in just a second is to have a short bio break, but I want to share a couple of resources, if you don't mind, with you in case you do need to go, and I understand if that's true. Let's see, which are some of the free resources from my website, as well as some of the exercises. So if you want to be on my email list, I send out writing tips as well as announcements for classes, but I try to include a tip most times. There's my website, theopening.org, which is there. And then that little piece about peeling back the onion, I recorded that as a YouTube video. So if you'd like to have that, I will be sending it to you as an email, as a follow-up within the next few days. But anyway, this is the video version of it. And then there's an article with 3 exercises that you can try. And one of them is the colleagues exercise. And it's a PDF, so you can print it out. And it's, again, just free resources. Let me just say, by the way, this is yours. I am not interested in intellectual copyright on this. So if you take these 3 exercises and open up a writing school in Phoenix, Arizona, and charge $1 million a student and never give me any credit for it, I am totally fine with that. Just use it or give it away or whatever. There's so many gifts coming through us, and that whole capitalist idea of mine, and I'm going to keep it and I'm going to make money off of it. Not for this. Please just take it and use it, any of them you want. Okay, so I know that we have biological bodies, so those of you who may want to take a break, I want to say that a very important part of releasing some of our fear and contraction around writing is to get this particular kind of feedback that I call appreciative inquiry. I'm going to show you how to do that. You have a chance to read part of your free write to another generous, kind, listening person who will give you feedback. And maybe it might be, many people have said it's the first time they've gotten feedback that's not trying to fix it or be critical or tell them what's wrong or shut them down or improve it for them. So if you need to go, I do understand. But if you can come back, let's make this like 3 minutes. And you know how sometimes people say 3 minutes and it becomes 10 in groups? 3, maximum 4 minutes if you need to take a break. I'm actually going to just hang out here. So if anyone wants to ask me questions during the break, you can do that. But if you can come back, I hope you will. And I'll show you this wonderful feedback method. And at the end, I will be available for extended question and answer. And anyone who's curious about weekly classes, I can tell you about them. Okay, let's take a break. I see it's 47 after, so like 50, 51 after by my clock. Let's come back. Okay, let's see you in a bit. And if you have a question, you may just go ahead and unmute and speak, or a reflection.
I have a reflection.
Okay, wonderful. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Andy. When I was doing this, it really felt like I was in some sort of altered state of consciousness.
What do you attribute that to?
Maybe some kind of flow because I had my timer set for like 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So I wouldn't have to worry about anything, and I could just let go. So that might have something to do with it. But the fact that I didn't have anything to worry about except throwing words on a piece of paper. And I kind of think I write better with a pen and paper instead of with a computer and Word.
Interesting. Yeah. So whatever thing you discover about yourself, this is actually a self-discovery process that I like to lead it in these classes. Is just whatever you notice gives you energy, makes you feel good. Put some breadcrumbs or breadcrumb bookmark on that to come back to. And if you keep doing that, you're going to start having more fun with writing. And the more fun you have with writing, I can swear on a stack of the Bhagavad Gita that it is will improve your writing. If that's something you're even interested in, improvement. Any other reflections or questions? Thank you, Sharon.
Andy,
Yes.
um, it's an unrelated question, but how do you copy from the chat so I can have that information?
Okay, here we go. Great question, Michelle. I just learned this myself. Everybody ready for the technology section? Okay. If you open the chat window, at the bottom right of it, there is, it says, to everyone. And then if you follow that across, there's a little icon of a document. And then next to that, there's a document of a little smiley face. And then there's 3 dots. If you click on that 3 dots, it will say save chat. And then it will save it to usually your desktop or wherever the default is.
Okay, and let me see if I can put it on a Word document, just out of fun. Let's see.
And you can also just copy and paste it too.
Yeah, there it is. Great.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Michelle, I'd love to hear about your project, even if it's quote stalled, but whatever is happening, just send me an email. I would love to hear.
I definitely, I will, Andy. It's just so good to see you. It's so good to connect.
It is, Michelle.
Yeah, it's been just so, it's been wonderful. I mean, it's so creative. You're just an amazing teacher. So thank you.
I've had good teachers and I've been lucky and not so injured that I'm able to do this. Other reflections or questions?
Yeah, I'm just interested to find out your classes, and I guess that'll be on your website.
It is on my website. Okay, I was going to share this at the end, but let me just go ahead and put at least the dates on it for those of you who are interested in that, and I'll put that in the chat window. And again, this is completely a gifted class. It is not a way to promote my economics, but if you do want to do more work with me, be on my mailing list, you get more free classes. And if you want to take a class that helps me buy my groceries, you're welcome to do that. Okay, so it is 51 after. I would like to bring that back to this very fun part of this, which is called appreciative inquiry. So this is different than critique group or workshopping your piece. For many years, I wouldn't do this unless I was in the room. Because I was afraid that people might hurt each other. And I can tell you that 20 years later, sometimes 30 years later, people will remember something negative said about their writing, and they'll just kind of like let it lodge in their brain like a foxtail, and just kind of, be like a dog worrying it, and just kind of like repeating that same phrase. And sometimes you can't stop it. So please, my first thing I want to say is when you give feedback to someone, please be exceedingly sweet and careful. So what we're not doing, and I'll give you some guidelines on what we are doing, we're not telling how to improve it or what you think is wrong or whether you were lost or analyzing it or psychoanalyzing it. Now, if those of you who are like, you know what, I don't think I'm going to read my piece, you can still participate. You can just listen. You can be part of it. You don't have to like leave the group. Just see how it goes. You can be part of this. So we're not going to analyze. We're not going to critique. We're not going to psychoanalyze or even assume that if someone wrote, I did this and I did that, that it's even them. It might be a fictional character. It might be a parody of their most hated politician. It might be, so don't assume that the I is the person there. In fact, we always say the narrator in my classes. Okay, so appreciation and inquiry. How do we do it? I'm going to give you the shortest possible version, but again, I'm just going to trust you guys to be really kind and supportive to each other. As, for example, I'm just going to take Sharon because Sharon has spoken. If this is an example here, Sharon reads to me. I have my notebook here. I have a scrap piece of paper. As Sharon reads to me, I'm jotting them down on a piece of paper. Some of the things that she wrote, not all of them. Hopefully Sharon will read slowly. How slowly? At about this rate. Does that seem a little slow? Maybe when you're just listening. But if you're listening and writing, that's a good speed. Okay, so you may not get as much written. I'll give you the amount of time per person. You'll have 2 other people in your group, probably about 7 or 8 minutes per person, something like that. The process will be 1 person reads. You'll just do that alphabetically. And again, actually, why don't I go ahead and glue that into the chat window so you can follow along with the process. How to do feedback with your small group. Okay, and then that'll be easier to follow. Here we go. Choose the first reader, alphabetical, and a timekeeper. 7 minutes each for the whole process. Maybe, yeah, 7, that's probably good. Read slow. So no apologies or explanations, just the piece. This one's really, I can't read my writing. This one's really gross. I'm so sorry. I feel very inarticulate. You may feel that. No way to stop it. Zip your lips about that. Just read the piece. As my teacher, Leslie Kirk Campbell, said to me in my very first writing class, choose to love your words as you read them. You can hate them afterwards, she said, or you can hate them beforehand, but choose to love your words. That actually helps your listener, right? Because then they're not involved in taking care of you or your own state. So as much as possible, give it as a gift. The listeners write down a few words and phrases that they respond to as best you can. Be sure to write some down. This is actually important. So sometimes people say, I just wanted to listen, so I didn't write anything down. If you absolutely need to do that, okay, but if you're at all able to write down even a couple of phrases so that the other person can hear their words back in your voice, there's an incredible alchemical transformation that happens in that. I promise you it does happen. Listening to your words exactly, or as close as possible. You might misspell a word or confuse one word for another. That's always an invitation. You don't have to correct them that they didn't get the right word. You don't have to apologize whether you could read your writing. Just read some words back to them. And when the reader finishes, say thank you. It takes a lot to actually have the courage to read aloud to a stranger or to anybody. They haven't even reread it themselves. Thank them for reaching down into themselves and reading it. The listener reads back those phrases without commentary, just the words first, not as a list, but as one long sentence running the whole thing together. Let's see if I can give an example of that. Okay, so I'm just going to grab the first piece of writing as it's like a magazine, kind of journal, and I haven't written them down, but it'll just be like one long sentence as opposed to like the story of Vietnam. They survived. Onslaught of revolutions, peasant classes. I would read the story of Vietnam. They survived. Onslaught of revolutions and peasant classes. Just one long thing. That's how it's kind of cool to just run all those phrases that I wrote down together. The listener then tells the reader 1 or 2 things they appreciated or liked or were moved by. No criticism at all. Okay, so Sharon, is it okay if I share 1 or 2 details that I know from your book, just as an example for the group? Okay, so Sharon, that piece that you read to me about taking traditional Protestant hymns and rewriting them without the patriarchy and without the top-down nature, I was so excited about the possibility of that. And even though I haven't been raised or been drawn to Christian belief systems, that idea of rewriting hymns is just inspires me, and I kind of feel music in me. And the way that you talked about the almost hypnosis, that's my word, of the way hymns kind of entrain the mind to think in a particular way, I got kind of scared about the power of them. So I'm really excited to read your book. So these are actual things. Sharon has been in one of our groups, and those are 2 pieces of appreciation. I didn't say, you should tell me more about it, or I was confused by that. Okay. And then the first reader shares what it was like for them to write or read or get feedback. So I might say, Sharon, so what was it like for you? Or she would share after she's gotten her feedback, you know what, this was freeing to me, or this, I felt constipated. Or I was embarrassed reading it to you guys, but when you read it back to me, I thought maybe it's not so bad. Whatever your experience was. Okay, everyone else just listens and acknowledges that, and we switch to the next reader. Okay, I wish I had time to kind of go through that a little bit more slowly, but I want to give you guys each enough time to do that. The group, I had a question from the group. The group will be made now by me, but I want to make sure there's no questions. Does anyone have questions about this process before I put you guys into a group? Go ahead and just unmute yourself and ask the question, if you would. Oh no, don't run away. It's going to be fun.
What if we accidentally hurt someone? We don't know. I'm very scared of hurting someone.
Oh, well, you're not actually cutting to their brain with a scalpel. You're just saying something. So I'm sure someone who's already concerned about it, you'll be just fine. Okay. Just try to be sweet. Just appreciate them, right? Yeah, I'm sure I've accidentally hurt people. Guess what?
You can't. Oh my gosh. I'm just so happy to be here. I moved my, yes.
I can. I could hurt someone accidentally because I'm a human being.
And what if one's writing is not as asymmetrical, but everything one is going on? So it all ties in somehow and accidentally.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. There's no way to do it wrong. It's lovely.
Okay.
So, okay. So let's do this. I'm going to create the breakout rooms, and I'll pop around and listen in a little bit. Enjoy this process. Do have a timekeeper. Okay, we're going to try to keep this to about 21 minutes so that we have at least 10 minutes on the schedule at the end for people to come back and share their experience with me and ask any questions. So let's begin. Let's do this alphabetically. And again, I'll send those instructions to you guys. Okay, wait a minute. 4 to 5, I need to, okay, let's see if 8, it's me. We have to move, maybe we have to move people around, but let's see if this works. Okay, looks like almost, yeah, let's do it. Okay. Someone?
Can you hear
Hello?
me?
Okay, yes. Good. I don't know what happened. Okay, yes, Krishna, go ahead.
Actually, no, there was someone else speaking and you just couldn't hear, so I just wanted to pass it back to her. I don't know who was speaking, but she was talking about the joy that she got. Go ahead.
Yes, this is Monel, and I wanted to thank you so much. Thank you, Pavi, for sending that reminder. And I changed my MRI scan time to attend this, and the universe through you set up the perfect partners, and it was just beautiful. And thank you for your generosity, Metta, and I would love to join your retreat.
Okay. All right. I would love to have you. I did hear part of, give me your name again, please. Because it's not
Monel. My name is Monel.
Okay, Monel. I did hear part of your writing. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, and this gets me back to the Wednesday and the giving and the awaken and the circles, and it just gives me so much joy the way the way you address this and the way you have given your time and offering. I'm inspired to do the same.
Good. I was inspired by Pavi. I mean, I was already offering free classes, but now I'm just like, as I do it, it's just so much richer for me.
Yes, because I'm very much for Nipun and Guri. I know them well, but Pavi, I have seen, yes, at the Wednesday. Yes.
Other people's reflections or questions?
I found it really interesting that while I was writing, it was just a stream and I didn't feel any particular emotion. But then when I read it back, I just was, oh my gosh, like devastated and tears. You know, it just, it brought a lot out that I wasn't even aware that it had brought out of me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Great prompts. Thank you.
Kay, this is very common. I've seen it for years and I don't really have any explanation on why that happens, but it definitely does. Do you have any ideas on why that happens? Because that is the experience. Sometimes I'm just writing along, it's just flowing, I'm not necessarily feeling, but then when we articulate it, sometimes emotions do come up. Do you have any thoughts on why that might happen?
I guess it must have something to do with there's a receiver there on the other end. You know, when I'm writing, I'm, talking to myself, but when I'm reading, there's somebody there listening. So there must be some energetic something going on there. The empathy molecules start to flow or something.
Great. I also, as I asked you that question, and other people might have some thoughts on it, when I start to speak, there's a physical thing happening right through my mouth, and it's resonating in my skull, in my throat, in my chest cavity. The words are increasing in their aliveness, their life forceness, their movement, their vibration through me, and perhaps that shakes loose the emotions.
Thank you. This was great.
When you were saying, Andy,
Yes.
when you were giving us the prompts and you were saying scenes, and you were so like impartial, like scenes from plays or something, and it's amazing that how one cannot, at least I could not get past the scenes were very real and very something that has happened recently, or it's very real, whereas your scenes were like you could imagine different things, and that was very fascinating, that everybody's scenes are so different.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a skill I've built up over years, but I'm kind of on the spot to give an example. So perhaps Monel, if you were teaching and you now know how to do it, so you may teach it, like, let's give some examples of some scenes. And then you said that out loud to a group of people who are listening. You just come up with some scenes. But yeah, I would say that, if writing is part of your practice, or you do this, particularly without all the constrictures that we have from society on a regular basis, the floodgates open. Do you find that, Dorothy? You've been working with me for a while. Do you feel like, the scenes kind of pop up more and more as you do that? You're muted, Dorothy, though we can't hear you though.
I'm more open to it. And I think that my lifelong habit has been to squeeze everything off. Don't think about it. Don't write about it. You have work to do. Do that. So your website, the opening, I think that is a great name for your website and your business and your life mission.
I thought it up in 2002, and I just spent literally almost 7 or 9 months to give the open. It was like open, and then it was like the open, or the opening, or the opener, and I just call it the open. but it took a
But-
long time to come up with that one phrase. Yeah.
Well, oh, sorry. I was just going to say that it's opening in more ways than one. It's becoming more open to everything around you, not just words, not just what you're writing, but to your life, and opening to your life and the possibilities for your life, and the joy, becoming open to that, having fun, as you say. Yeah, so thank you, Andy.
You're welcome. Well, if you did get some joy from this, I really want to encourage you to spread it around to the people and animals and plants and microbes around you. We really need it. I don't need to remind you how much hard and difficult things are happening all the time, and we read about them all the time. We need your spark. Share it, pump it out, give it away. There's a little course I just put in the chat window there. It's a free online course. It's a two-week course, but it's probably more than 2 weeks of material in it. It has exercises in it. It's absolutely free. It's got lectures, and you just, if you want to take it, there it is. It's just for free. You can share it with anyone you want to. You can do it with groups. It's really nice. Like, okay, let's do the online group together. Okay, let's listen to the talk, and then there's like a little audio, so you press play, and I'll lead you through the exercise, and you now have all the parts here. And again, I really don't mind if you share this, if you turn it into a business. I don't care. Give it away. Give it away. Give it away. Sell it. I don't care. It's yours. All right, I'm going to officially stop for those of you who need or want to go, and I'm going to hang around for another 20 minutes just for anyone who has questions in general about this process, want to ask me. I call it office hours, and also if anyone has questions about upcoming classes. I have book completion groups. The ones for April just filled up, but there's some coming in August. I have a weekend retreat that's happening. Elizabeth is also in a book completion group. And I also have an online home retreat. I have an 8-week free writing based group and a 6-month deep dive. So all of those are there. I'll tell you guys about anyone who wants to, but this is just an office hours for any kind of questions. For those of you who need or want to go, we'll go ahead and close the official meeting. I will stop the recording. Pavi, thank you so much for what you had to offer us. It was really, really wonderful. Michelle and Krishna just wrote to me, thank you very much. I really appreciated the field we all created together to allow that opening for the creativity juices to flow through with the joy and wonder. We'll definitely share this joy with others. Thank you. Michelle Rule, thank you so much. This has been a lovely way to spend an evening. I look forward to finding out more on your website. Nice to meet you all. Okay, good night or good morning for all of you. Great to meet you.
I have one last question. Is
Sure.
that